Ahoy there, today on the Red Sea, what's the worst punishment you ever received as a child? My mom found out my sister was suicidal, so she locked my sister in her room with literally nothing but a blanket and maybe an air mattress. She was only let out to use the restroom. Food and clothes were brought up to her and then taken when she was finished. My mom told me about this when I was about 8 or 9. I'm 19 now, and I have never and will never tell her about any of my mental health issues for fear of my life. I was driven about 30 minutes outside of my city to an isolated, large, and creepy looking building, which I was told was an orphanage. I was given the choice of telling the truth and admitting to something I had not done, or being left there. I'm 38 and still think about this from time to time. My grandparents beating my mother in front of me for me talking to her. I was in their custody and my mother was an addict who they did not want around, and she kept trying to call and come see me. So she came over and my grandparents beat her, broke her jaw and nose, and said it was my fault for talking to her. I was 7. When I was around 6 years old, my stepdad woke me up in the night by pulling me out of the bed and yelling that I had got piss on the toilet seat. He took me out on the front porch, and while he was paddling me, the rail I was bracing against broke and I fell off the porch. My mom used to do the whole waking me up in the middle of the night for some perceived wrongdoing stuff. She would suddenly and loudly throw my door open, turn on the light and drag me out of bed at all hours. I'm pretty sure I'm a light sleeper and regularly wake up startled because of that. I'm 40. I swore I would never do that malarkey to my kids. My mom said I could not have a best friend anymore because my best friend and I were drawing pentagrams on manuscript paint at our after school program, pretending they were transmutation circles from an anime called Full Metal Alchemist. Pentagrams are much easier for a 9-year-old to draw than an intricate alchemy array. My mom immediately jumped to this being devil worshipping, despite my friend and I not even knowing what a pentagram really meant. This led to my mom telling every single teacher and after school care worker not to allow me to be anywhere near my friend. Friend moves away and mom would not let me email her to stay in touch. I'm 24 now and haven't not had any close friends since. Christina, if you're out there, I still miss you. Beatings will continue until your moral improves. In all ducking serious, life got better and I never see my dad anymore and him and my mom ask when I'm having kids and why I haven't not seen them in years despite living probably 30 minutes from them. My mum took everything in my room except a blanket, my radio, books, toys, you name it. I was locked in there for the UK summer holidays. They are 6 weeks long. My mum used to beat 10 bells of malarkey out of, but being locked in that room the whole summer was probably the worst. I was grounded for 6 months straight, which was me being locked in my room, not an actual physical lock, and I was not allowed to leave it except for dinner, the bathroom and to go to school. I had 0 toys. I owned no books. I had nothing to do but get lost in my head, and at one point my radio was taken away, so I was left in complete silence. I was between 10, 13. Why was I grounded? My dad thought either my brother or I stole his camera and sold it, and until we told him who did it, we were both grounded. Finally after 6 months he finally cleaned his room and found his camera and said we were ungrounded. We never even got an apology. After that my dad continued to ground me for block of months at a time. I ended up being grounded and isolated for 1.5 years total between 10, 13 years old. Being trapped in my head for that long has ducked me up mentally permanently. In the 1980s, my father was a radioman and often had spare parts lying around. Whenever I was rebellious toward him, he was fond of whipping my bare back with metal radio antenna. When I was 8 years old, I had every dish in the house thrown at me including a loaf of bread. I was then locked outside till midnight. I was first put out in the morning. The pointless ones. We had landscaping rocks in our yard from an unfinished project. They were probably £30 each. After a number of other punishments failed, my parents came up with the move rocks punishment. I'd have to move 30 or so of these rocks 50 yards, set them up into a particular shape, square, circle, etc. Have my parents check them and then move them all back. The pointlessness of it all was the worst. An ass whooping from dad. That his grip and my trying to run broke my arm. How was that explained to the doctor? I fell off of my bike. I'm a larky my pants in the 4th grade. I do not know why, but I had a condition that made me hold it all in and not use a toilet. This had been going on and off my entire life. Not a problem anymore. My dad was furious. I remember being naked in my bedroom with my dad. My dirty underwear was on the floor and my dad had a hard grip on my arm while he screamed and yelled at me. He yelled at me things like, how old are you, no one is gonna wanna be your friend and you're disgusting. He then beat me his belt. My dad worked at a flour mill and spent his days stacking 100-pound flour bags 10 high, so he was built like the ducking Hulk. He would then rub my malarkey-filled underwear in my face, making me look at it and smell it. Got put on restriction for 6 months for doing something my mom said I could do, but then she said she never gave me permission to do, even though another adult was sitting there and confirmed he heard her give me permission to do it. Also had to pick up all the rocks in the vacant lot next to our house and put them in a pile on weekends as part of the punishment. Probably getting strangled by my dad after I stormed away from the dinner table while yelling that I hated eating with my parents because all they did was yell and curse at one another. Not me, but one of my siblings. We were quite young and they did not want to finish all the food on their plate. So my stepdad duct taped them to the dining room chair and would not let them out until they finished. At Catholic school with nuns as teachers, those teachers were doing the devil's work. I remember being forced to kneel on hardwood floors on popcorn kernels while saying the rosary. Duck you, Sister Mary Joan, you evil witch. I was in kindergarten and I had peed myself because I was having too much fun watching a movie in class. The teacher put me in the bathroom with the lights out and door closed for the rest of the movie. 45 minutes or so, and it was storming really badly outside. I'm still afraid of the dark and loud noises. 7 years old. I would not move my hands from but so my mom dragged me to the bathroom. While there she lifted me up by my legs and attempted to give me a swirly. My hands immediately latched onto the toilet bowl to stop my head from falling in. Then my mom freed up one of her hands to turn my ass red. After a few hits my arms gave out and my head dropped hard into the toilet water. After that she yelled at me for 5 more minutes and ordered me to take a shower. She still denies doing this or any of the other corporal punishment my sister and I were subjected to. Made to drink distilled vinegar. It was probably from ages 5-10 that my parents used it as punishment. They would rotate between spanking/whipping our asses with the leather swatches or the branches of our beloved willow tree, putting us in corners for extended periods of time. If we cried or complained, 20 minutes doubled to 40 and so on. Old-fashioned soap, and the god-forbidden vinegar. I still have major teeth and jaw problems at 22, and my stomach/esophagus has never felt normal. Probably when my mom spanked me with the back of her favorite hairbrush. Then the hairbrush broke, and I got spanked some more, because that was her favorite hairbrush. In grade 10, in my part of the world, grade 10 was the first year of high school. I got an 80% on my Christmas French exam and, as punishment, I was not allowed out of the house on school nights for the rest of high school. My parents homeschooled me in my last year of school because I had a boyfriend. Lost my seat and scholarship to the college I had early acceptation for since the 11th grade, and then took my resp for themselves to go on a cruise when I went with a different program because I did not have the marks for the original program. I told my brother to duck off and die. I turned around to a 2x4 to the chest, then spent 8 hours total picking up tiny ass rocks out of the yard and putting them in a bucket. When the bucket was full my dad would walk around the yard throwing them around. Then he'd pick them back up again. Edit. For those asking, a 2x4 is a piece of wood used in construction. If you were to open up the walls of your house, many of you would find 2x4 cut into 8 or 9 feet lengths used to frame your house/apartment/dwelling. My dad once told me that if I let the word malarkey cross my lips again, I'd truly have malarkey cross my lips. I did not listen and said it again that night. And he took a piece of fresh dog poop and made me hold it on my tongue for 30 seconds. I cried and never cursed again until I was 21. So my dad found an old wooden hockey stick that was thrown away. He saw it and thought it'd make a great weapon to beat us with. He called it Mr. Sticko and he broke over my back for something I did. That one really sucked. Definitely the buck rag. I still feel sick thinking about it. For those who do not know, a buck rag is a rag that's been rubbed all over a male goat in rut. It's used for some goat breeding purposes. Lady goats love the smell. In our town, some parents would buy these rags from goat farmers to punish children for misbehaving. You take the child out back, pull the rag out of the jar, drape it over the child's face, and tie a knot in the back. It's not dangerous, but it makes them smell the horrible goat odor. I never saw what the big deal was until I was buck-ragged as a 16-year-old girl for cursing out my parents. I puked a lot. Slapped across the face as a 12-year-old girl by my father when I burned nachos in the microwave. This was the first time he slapped me, so I remember it well. He used to spank me, but switched to open-handed slaps to the face when I got too old for spanking. Had my door taken off the hinges, and all of my belongings, some's bed and dresser, taken out of my room. Some got sold, some tossed, some given to my younger sibling. This punishment lasted a full 4 months. Just because I dropped from a B to a C in one class in high school. Sorry, but that's it for this video. But do not worry, there are many more coming. Like and subscribe for more videos from the Reddit Sea Cove. Thanks for watching.